There's been a theme of board games coming out lately that have this nostalgic feel and themes to it. And one of those themes that I am quite a fan of, for I was a fan of them back when they are now nostalgic from, is comic books. So today we are going to look at Comic Book Boom! We're going to show you briefly how to play it, followed up by my thoughts on this game. Alright, here is the setup for Comic Book Boom. I will say this is a prototype version of the game, and also this is my own personal marker to track the phases, my little pug meeple. Alright, with that being said, you set up. Each player is going to start with 10 coins. You're going to set up the bubble board. You're going to put the bubble at the player count. I'm set up for a 2-player game. And then the theme tokens on that row. You are going to shuffle and put the Stunt Cards, Enhancement Cards, and Book Cards on the board. You have your money, your 1, your 5, your 10, your 25s. And then you are ready to begin. You're going to be playing over 5 phases, going until the bubble bursts and gets up to there. Or one player has gone bankrupt after the cleanup phase. To start, you're going to be doing the research phase. The research phase is done simultaneously, and that is everyone's going to be drawing cards from whatever deck they choose. However, you have to pay 1 coin, $1 for every card in your hand. So at the beginning of the game, no cards in your hand, so it doesn't cost anything. When you do the research, you're going to draw 3 cards, you're going to look at them, and you're going to keep one of them. These cards have a few areas of information. Up here in the corner, you have its theme if it has one. Inspectrix Midnight does not have a theme. Down here you have the amount of hype it generates, and if it has any collectability. So Shroud has the ninja and the fashion, and it's got a hype of 1, whereas Platinum has the shield and a collectability of 1 and a hype of 1. Inspector Midnight has a readability and the collectability. All that will make more sense when I get into the next 2 phases. So you can keep doing this. Tell you what, I'm going to keep, let's keep Platinum. The other 2 get discarded face down. And then if I research again, it would cost me 1 coin because I already have 1. And we will look at the enhancements. So these enhance the collectability. And you have various things, such as a hologram. If this book has at least 3 hype, you get 3 collectability, has at least 2, and this is just a poly bag. So you would keep that and discard that. If you research again, now you're paying 2 because you have 2 cards in your hand. So you'll draw 3 of these, and these do things like they give you more hype or an all new look. 1 hype, and then it has a cleanup phase in it. So we'll keep anniversary. So then you can keep going. Now I have 3, so if I pay 5, take my change of 2, and let's go ahead and grab another title. We'll grab that title, and then we'll spend the rest of our money to grab another one of these. And we'll take the trading card. There we go. So that would be the research. Once everyone's done doing their research, they'll say, I'm done. Then, once everyone has accomplished that, you're going to move into develop. In the development phase, you're going to be looking at your hand of cards, and you're going to be putting how you want to play them face down. So in this instance, I could go, say, Turncoat with the anniversary, and then let's give them the trading card and the poly bag, and then Platinum. So everyone's going to be doing develop at that point. If you have any cards left in your hand at the end of the develop phase that you don't want to put out, those do get discarded, so you'll have no cards in your hand at the end of the develop phase. Next, you go into the publish phase. Publish phase, each player 1 by 1 is going to flip over their comic books with all the attached things and adjust the themes. So we have Platinum, who has the shield with the 1 hype, so that goes up 1. We then flip up Turncoat, Anniversary, with the fancy stuff on it. I kind of like stacking them like that. It makes it smaller and straight up, and so that gives you all the information you need. So Fashion with the trench coat is going to go up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so is Motorbike 1, 2, 3. So then your opponent would do the same thing. So say they kick up this by 2, this by 1, and this by 3. So that's just an example of how it might be. So after everyone has shown that, you're going to move into profit. The first step of profit is to see if any comic has become overhyped. If it's overhyped, if a theme is overhyped, it becomes canceled. Any cards you have with that theme would get discarded along with any cards on it. However, you do get $1 for every card discarded. And then for every comic discarded in that manner, the bubble goes up 1. In this instance, nothing got overhyped. So now we move into our profit. What you do is you look at each comic. In this instance, we have the Fashion and the Motorbike. And you are going to look at the highest token regards. So this has a 3 readability. You're going to take the readability and times it by the diamonds, its collectability. In this instance, 2 from the trading card because we have a polybag, 1 from there. So 1, 2, 3 times 3 is 9. You would take 9 coins as your profit. And then you look at your other one, the shield at 1. He's only got a collectability of 1. So that gives me 1. So I'm actually back right at 10. You would do this for each comic that you have. Once everyone has done their profit, you go into cleanup. First thing in cleanup is you do any cleanup effects on cards, such as the all-new look. In cleanup, move the bubble up 1 extra level. Some other cards have different various effects. Next, you are going to move up the bubble 1 spot regardless. Then every marker that's above the bubble gets brought down to the level of the bubble. Any cards that are temporary, which are your enhancements and your stunts, go back to your hand. Your comics stay out. And then you're going to see whoever has the least amount of money gets a research token. What that will do is in the research phase, instead of paying 3 for the cards, I can turn this in and in essence research for free. You are again going to play that until the bubble bursts or one person is bankrupt at the end of the cleanup phase, and then it's whoever has the most money wins. Alright, so that is how you play Comic Book Boom! So now we move on to what my thoughts are on the game. So here's what they are. We really like it. We've played it quite a few times, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't want to give my thoughts unless I played it a few times. The first time we played it, we were really cognizant, really made sure, and we're really doing the math and in-depth to make sure nothing burst, and we played, I think we burst the bubble on the last round or two to finish. That ended up triggering the end of the game, but we were doing our best. We're like looking, making sure, we were really mathing it out, and then we started playing games, and we just stopped noticing that, and man, were we canceling comics left and right. So that is one of the things with this game is make sure you are paying attention to what your opponents have out. Because if a theme is out, it's moving up at least 1 per comic, because every comic that has a theme has a little flame icon to hype it up. And then as that bubble moves up and those themes only start meeting it down here, it's going to start taking less and less hype to make that comic book get canceled. So like at some point you might be looking, you're like, well, this one's definitely getting canceled because we have 4 out and there's only 3 spots till it bursts. So then, well, we're probably going to be triggering the end of the game. Or that's another thing you have to try and do is there are quite a few themes. Do I try and overlap some themes on my comics so that they're both kind of pushing it up and I can get the points there? Or do I go heavy into one and hope my opponent doesn't just do a couple little things and push it over, because then what I'm going for, boom, gets canceled and goes away, and then there goes all my good cards, there goes that comic, and that whole turn ended up being a waste for me, and I didn't get as much money. So really trying to manage what you've chosen for your themes and what your opponent has. The other decision is, all right, do I go with a comic that's got 2 themes, so it's got 2 chances of having that theme pushed up to increase the readability on it with its collectability, Or do I go for that solo one, seeing as it already has a collectability, but it's going to be possibly harder to push that one up because it is that one specific theme and isn't overlapping with possibly other persons. But then again, if you go with the two themes and it gets pushed up, you may be good on the one, but not realize that the other one, bam, burst, which means you have to cancel the comic. So there is that really kind of tense decision, really having to watch what your neighbors are doing, like, all right, which comics have you already published? Which ones have you already published? And then balancing the hype with the collectability. And this is another one where you almost kind of have to change tactics or gears as the game gets later. Because as the game gets later, you're not necessarily going to want to get or need to get those hype cards, the stunt cards, because it's already going to be up there, that readability of 2, 3, 4. You're going to want to do more, all right, let's grab the collectability ones to push up the collectability to then match that. So you're going to have to, like, early on, well, I want to kind of balance what I'm getting with the stunts and the enhancements. Well, now, all right, so now we've pushed it up so much, it's going to stay up there. Well, now we got to really do the enhancements. But in regards to that, do I now then just get rid of my stunt cards so I'm not having to pay money and only pay money for the enhancements? But then, what I forgot to mention there is that if a comic theme bursts, it goes back all the way to the bottom of the board. Not where it started at the beginning of the game, all the way at the bottom. So now if you have a comic with that theme coming out, you do need those stunt cards because you got to push it up because it's starting down even lower. So you really have to get it pushed up if you want that readability. So there is really that cool design space. Theme-wise, as you've been seeing by the cards that have been scrolling next to me, the art is very reminiscent of 90s comics. If you grew up or if you grabbed them back from now as they're vintage, but that very distinctive 90s comic book imagery, you really get that feel with this. The whole fact that, you are competing publishers and you're not necessarily going to know what the other publisher is publishing, so you guys might overlap themes and then oversaturate the market so no one wants it. There's that really cool thematic element of it. The whole different types of covers and the fact that a trading card needs a poly bag because otherwise the trading card would fall out. So then doing that. The embossed cover needing the foil cover in order to interact. So having to make sure you build up those covers and build up those collectabilities right is just a really cool touch. The whole hype ones. There was one game that I decided to do something really crazy, and if it's the first issue, it increases the hype by 3, and then it's the death of it's by 3. So I had the person's first appearance, death of. So I just had this whole massive comic that scored me tons of money, but then it was gone with all those cards. So then, yeah, it scored me a lot of money, but now I'm starting from scratch and having to possibly spend that money building up the cards again to get to that point. So really kind of managing where you put your cards. Do you go heavy on one comic, but then possibly that comic might get canceled, so you lose all that? Or spread them out more? Do you go for the big payday, or do you want to just publish a bunch of smaller but better titles? The other thing I enjoy is that the comic book or the comic books themselves are all different. They didn't recycle any, so you have this whole deck of all these various different comic books. They've done really good with the iconography, making it look like the comic book cover and how everything is. And just, it's very clear. It's very easy to play. It's simple rules. I took a little bit just to make sure I understood everything, but it's basically draw cards by paying the amount in your hand. Lay out your stuff face down, flip them over, move the markers up, times this by this, your money, rinse and repeat. Very simple mechanics, but having that design depth of what are you going to choose and when are you going to put it out and which themes and how much of an overlap do you want. I will wrap this up by saying we did only ever play it 2 players, for that is what we specialize in, is 2 players only. And I could see the comic book bubble getting burst more possibly in a 4-player game, because now you have 4 people kind of pushing up, so I don't know if you'd get as many of those big paydays as much, unless you could really manage the hype and put the ton of collectability and allow everyone else to kind of push it up for you. But I will say that, like I said, except for those 1 or 2 games, a lot of times we didn't have a lot of comics burst or get canceled one at a time. Ours were in waves. All right, we had 4 comics, so it really pushes the bubble up. Here we had 4 more comics, and we're at the end of the game. So in the 2-player, it didn't seem like 1 or 2 comics would go away at a time. It would be batches and batches of comics would go away at a time. So I'm wondering if in a 3-4-player game, if it'd be more so like 1 here, a couple there, as opposed to the big groups of them. But overall, like I said, we really enjoyed it. The theme just excelled for us. Both me and Bri were big collectors back in the 90s and the early 2000s, but more so the 90s as this is based. We collected comics back then. We love comic books now, so being able to have that theme really well incorporated into the game just is fantastic for us, and we are fans of that quick, simple, simultaneous gameplay, so there isn't as much downtime of waiting for someone to go through everything. So I will recap the big pluses for us: theme, mechanics, gameplay, theme. I know I said theme twice because the theme is really what drew us into this one. Alright, so again, Comic Book Boom. Check the link down below to join the Kickstarter if you have not already. Also, while you're down there, if you could go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell for the video and the channel. Especially share it so more people can hear about this cool game. So with that, I'll say, Finne, true believers.